The ocean doesn't make mistakes. When something dies at sea, the evidence is usually clear. But one morning, far from any coastline, a fishing vessel discovered something that should have been impossible. Floating silently in the cold water was a blue whale, nearly 25 meters long, the largest animal ever to exist on Earth. It wasn't simply dead. It had been ripped apart. Its body was torn nearly in half, with enormous bite marks carved deep into its flesh. Experienced marine biologists ruled out orcas within minutes. Great white sharks couldn't even come close. No known predator alive today has jaws powerful enough to inflict wounds of that size. Yet the injuries were real. Something had attacked the one creature that sits at the very top of the ocean's food chain. Imagine standing beside the body of the largest animal in history and realizing that, to whatever killed it, this whale was nothing more than prey. If something powerful enough to hunt blue whales still exists, then everything we believe about the ocean is wrong. And the strangest part is where this body was found. Because this wasn't just another stretch of sea, it was the loneliest place on our planet, Point Nemo. Point Nemo isn't an island, it isn't a trench, it isn't even visible on a map unless you know exactly where to look. Officially, it's called the oceanic pole of inaccessibility, the point in the Pacific Ocean farthest from any land on Earth. More than 2,600 kilometers separate it from the nearest coastline. It's so isolated that the closest human beings are often not sailors, but astronauts aboard the International Space Station, passing 400 kilometers overhead. Below them lies an endless wilderness of black water, violent storms, freezing waves, and depths that remain almost completely unexplored. No shipping lanes cross this region unless absolutely necessary. Few research expeditions dare to spend long here. If a distress signal is sent from Point Nemo, rescue could take days, if anyone arrives at all. It is one of the last true wildernesses left on Earth, a place where nature still follows its own rules, untouched by civilization. And if an unknown predator needed somewhere to survive for millions of years without ever being discovered, there may be no better hiding place anywhere on the planet. Because in these waters, disappearing isn't unusual, it's expected. Long before submarines, satellites, or underwater drones, there were only wooden ships and the men brave enough to sail them. During the 1800s, whaling captains crossed the Southern Ocean for months at a time, documenting everything they witnessed in detailed logbooks. Most entries described weather, catches, and navigation. But every so often, the journals mentioned something far more disturbing. Crews occasionally found massive sperm whales covered in deep scars, unlike anything they had seen before. These weren't the circular marks left by giant squid tentacles. They were long, parallel grooves carved by enormous teeth, stretching across the whale's body like plow marks through soil. Some wounds were fresh, others had healed, proving the animals had survived attacks from something powerful enough to nearly kill them. The sailors had no scientific explanation, so they created one of their own. They believed an ancient ruler of the deep, the king of whales, guarded the oceans and punished those who hunted its kind. Superstition, perhaps. But these were not stories told by frightened tourists. They came from hardened men who spent their lives facing storms, monsters of the sea, and death itself. They wrote only what they believed they had truly seen. Legends are easy to ignore. Military equipment is not. During the Cold War, the United States deployed a classified surveillance network known as SOSUS. Thousands of underwater hydrophones designed to detect Soviet submarines across the world's oceans. Unlike eyewitnesses, these sensors couldn't exaggerate or invent stories. They simply recorded sound. Then, in 1997, they captured something no one expected. A deep, ultra-low frequency signal echoed across the South Pacific. It lasted for about a minute and was so powerful that hydrophones nearly 5,000 kilometers apart detected it at the same time. Scientists nicknamed it the Bloop. At first, some believed it came from a massive living creature because its frequency resembled biological calls rather than earthquakes or volcanic activity. If that were true, the animal producing it would have needed to be several times larger than a blue whale. The idea sounded impossible, and years later, many researchers suggested the sound likely came from cracking Antarctic ice. But one fact remained unchanged. For a moment, even military analysts seriously considered that an unknown biological source had produced the loudest ocean sound ever recorded. And once that possibility existed, one unsettling question refused to disappear. What if they were only partially wrong? The idea of a whale hunter larger than anything alive today sounds like science fiction, until you open the fossil record. In 2008, paleontologists working in the deserts of Peru uncovered the skull of an extinct predator unlike anything they had ever seen. They named it Livyatan melvillei, after the biblical sea monster and the author of Moby Dick. This wasn't a gentle filter feeder like the modern blue whale. It was an apex predator built for one purpose: killing other whales. Its teeth measured up to 36 centimeters long, the largest functional biting teeth ever discovered in any known animal. Unlike the curved teeth of giant sharks, these were thick, conical weapons designed to crush bone and tear through flesh. Scientists believe Livyatan hunted much the same way modern orcas do, but on an unimaginable scale. Entire whales were its prey. Officially, it vanished around 9 million years ago as ocean ecosystems changed. But fossils only tell us when a species disappeared from the places we can study. They cannot prove what may have survived in the vast regions we have never explored. And in an ocean that still hides countless secrets, extinction is sometimes nothing more than the last confirmed sighting. Science says Livyatan disappeared because the oceans changed. As the climate cooled, populations of medium-sized whales declined, leaving the giant predator without enough food. On paper, its extinction makes perfect sense. But evolution rarely follows a straight line. Modern sperm whales routinely dive deeper than 2,000 meters, with some recorded approaching 3,000 meters, holding their breath for well over an hour in complete darkness. Down there, sunlight has never existed. The pressure is crushing, the temperature hovers near freezing, and almost nothing from the surface ever reaches those depths. Yet life thrives. Giant squid, colossal squid, deep-sea fish, and countless species we have never even named inhabit this hidden world. Imagine if a small population of Livyatan gradually adapted to that environment instead of disappearing. Over millions of years, it could have become slower, darker, quieter, and almost impossible to detect. A creature perfectly designed for an ecosystem humans can barely explore. It wouldn't need to rule the entire ocean. It would only need one place where no one was watching. And there is no place on Earth that fits that description better than the endless darkness surrounding Point Nemo. The strongest argument against any unknown sea monster is simple. Someone would have seen it by now. It sounds reasonable until you look at how little of the ocean we've actually explored. Scientists have mapped the surfaces of the Moon and Mars in extraordinary detail. Yet the vast majority of the deep sea floor remains poorly explored. Every year, expeditions discover hundreds of new marine species, including animals no one knew existed. Now imagine a predator that spends nearly its entire life thousands of meters below the surface, rising only under the cover of darkness in one of the most remote regions on Earth. The odds of a human crossing its path would be incredibly small, and even if it died, there might never be a body to examine. Most whale carcasses don't drift forever. They eventually sink to the seafloor in an event known as a whale fall, where entire ecosystems consume them over time. A giant predator would disappear the same way, leaving almost nothing behind. In the deep ocean, the absence of evidence isn't always evidence of absence. Sometimes it simply means no one has looked in the right place. Then came the data that left even experienced marine researchers searching for answers. To study the movements of great white sharks and orcas, scientists began attaching satellite tracking tags to some of the ocean's most powerful predators. Most of the time, the results were predictable. But every so often, a tag would record something terrifying. A healthy shark would suddenly dive hundreds of meters in seconds. Then the surrounding temperature recorded by the tag would rapidly rise. Moments later, the signal would stop moving entirely, before eventually washing ashore days or even weeks later. One famous case involved a tagged great white, whose data suggested it had been swallowed whole by a much larger animal. The temperature increase matched the conditions inside the digestive system of a massive predator. Today, many scientists believe some of these events can be explained by large sharks, scavengers, or natural failures of the tags. But not every case fits neatly into those explanations. A few remain unsolved. And that's the unsettling part. Somewhere in the deep ocean, even apex predators sometimes disappear without a clear answer. Whatever is responsible rarely leaves witnesses, only silent data and unanswered questions. For millions of years, the deepest parts of the ocean may have acted as a perfect prison, keeping whatever lived there far away from the surface. But that balance is beginning to change. As global ocean temperatures slowly rise, deep water ecosystems are shifting. Oxygen-poor zones are expanding, forcing many deep-sea species to migrate towards shallower, more oxygen-rich waters. Scientists are already documenting changes in the migration routes of fish, squid, and marine mammals across the world. If a giant predator truly depended on the abyss for survival, it would eventually face the same problem as every other animal. It would have to follow its food, and that means leaving the darkness behind. The waters surrounding Point Nemo are no longer as isolated as they once were. Commercial shipping, scientific expeditions, and fishing vessels are gradually pushing farther into the Southern Ocean. The distance between humanity and the unknown is shrinking every year. Perhaps nothing is waiting beneath those waves. Or perhaps the greatest predator Earth has ever known is slowly being forced into waters where hiding is no longer possible. If that day ever comes, the first evidence won't be a photograph. It will be another impossible carcass drifting silently across the sea. The next time you fly over the Pacific Ocean at night, look down into the darkness below. Beneath those black waves lies a world humanity barely understands. We've explored distant planets, landed on the moon, and sent spacecraft beyond our solar system. Yet the deepest parts of our own ocean remain almost untouched. Maybe the Leviathan is nothing more than a legend born from fear. Or maybe every myth begins with something real. If a creature large enough to hunt whales still exists, it doesn't need to hide forever. It only has to remain unseen one more day. And somewhere beyond the storms of Point Nemo, the ocean keeps its secrets.